Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Native Echo Podcast, where we make English simple and enjoyable. I'm Harper, and today it is just me. Julian is not here, which means I get to talk for as long as I want without anyone interrupting me to clarify my vocabulary. I am joking, mostly. So, I want to start with something personal. Yesterday, I was cleaning out an old drawer in my apartment. You know the kind, the drawer where things go to disappear forever. Old batteries, a charger for a phone I no longer own, a birthday card from 3 years ago, a single earring with no partner. And at the very back of the drawer, I found a small notebook, one of those cheap ones with a soft cover. And I opened it, and inside, in my own handwriting from maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I had written a list. At the top, it said, things I want to say in English without thinking first. And the list was full of these little phrases: sick and tired, now or never, trial and error, hit and miss, safe and sound, give and take. And I just stood there in my kitchen holding this tiny notebook, and I thought, younger Harper was onto something. Because those phrases on that list, those are what native speakers reach for automatically, not grammar rules, not single vocabulary words. These little ready-made pairs that carry so much meaning in just a few syllables. They are called binomial pairs. Binomial means two. A binomial pair is two words always used together, almost always in the same fixed order, connected by and or. Salt and pepper. Never pepper and salt. Now or never. Never, never or now. The order is part of the expression. Change it and it stops sounding natural. It stops sounding like English that lives in the real world. And today I want to go through 50 of them with you. 50, which sounds like a lot, but I promise it is not going to feel overwhelming because you have already heard most of these. You just did not know they had a name. You did not know they were a category. By the end of this episode, you're going to start noticing them everywhere: in films, in songs, in podcasts, in conversations. And once you notice them, you start using them. And once you start using them, something shifts. Your English stops feeling like a translation in your head and starts feeling like something more natural, more yours. Let us begin. Sick and tired. My grandmother used to say this all the time. I am sick and tired of waiting. I am sick and tired of this noise. She said it with such commitment, and here is what it means. Not sick like you have a cold, not tired like you need a nap. Sick and tired means you have reached the end of your patience with something. It has been going on too long, and you are completely done with it. The frustration is deep. It has been building for a while. I am sick and tired of bad internet connections during important video calls. I am sick and tired of opening the fridge and finding nothing that inspires me. Ups and downs. Life has its ups and downs. Every relationship has its ups and downs. This podcast has had its ups and downs. The phrase captures the honest rhythm of real life: good periods and difficult ones, easy times and hard times. It is not pessimistic. It is just truthful. And there is something comforting about it, because it acknowledges that nothing stays difficult forever. The ups follow the downs, always. Heart and soul. When you put your heart and soul into something, you hold nothing back. You give everything: your complete energy, your complete attention, your complete love. She put her heart and soul into that project. He cooked that dinner with heart and soul. It is a phrase that honors effort, real, deep, total effort. Salt and pepper. At the table, it is exactly what it sounds like: the two things that live together on every dining table in the world. But beyond the table, salt and pepper describes hair that is a mix of dark and gray or white. And I want to say, salt and pepper hair is elegant. It is distinguished. It tells a story. Bread and butter. Literally, it is your morning toast with something spread on it. But metaphorically, your bread and butter is your main income, the core thing that pays your bills and keeps your life running. Teaching is her bread and butter. Freelance writing is his bread and butter. It is the reliable foundation. Bacon and eggs. Classic. Fixed order. Always bacon before eggs. If you say eggs and bacon, native speakers will probably still understand you, but something will feel slightly off to them, like a painting hung just a little crooked. The order becomes part of the instinct. Fish and chips. If you have ever spent time around British culture or British food, you know these two words belong together completely. It is not just a meal, it is a tradition, it is comfort, it is identity wrapped in newspaper on a cold evening by the sea. Now and then. This is a gentle time phrase. Not often, not regularly, but sometimes. I go for a long walk now and then. She sends me a message now and then. There is no pressure in this phrase, no expectation of consistency, just a quiet, occasional connection. Sooner or later. This one carries a kind of patient certainty. Something will happen. The timing is not fixed, but the outcome is inevitable. Sooner or later, things find their way. Sooner or later, the truth comes out. Sooner or later, the work pays off. It is a phrase that asks you to trust time. On and off. Something that is on and off is inconsistent. It happens sometimes, but not always. The heating in my apartment last winter was on and off for 3 months. My motivation to exercise is on and off, depending on the season and honestly, depending on my mood. An on and off relationship, an on and off habit. It never quite commits. Now or never. This phrase is a push, a firm, urgent, internal push. This is the moment. If not now, then when? I remember being 12 years old, standing at the top of a very high diving board. There was a line of kids behind me. I had been standing there for what felt like a very long time, and I whispered to myself, now or nothing, and I jumped. I screamed the entire way down, but I jumped. And that is the energy of this phrase. The moment when waiting becomes the wrong choice. Pros and cons. The most practical pair in the English language, possibly. Pros are the advantages, cons are the disadvantages. Weighing the pros and cons means thinking through a decision fairly and carefully. Should I take the new job? Let me think about the pros and cons. Should I move to a new city? Let me write out the pros and cons. It is organized thinking. It is maturity in 2 words. All or nothing. This is an intense way of seeing the world, either completely in or completely out. No middle option, no compromise. Some people live with an all or nothing mindset. It gives them clarity. It also sometimes gives them trouble because life rarely offers only 2 options: make or break. A situation that will either result in great success or complete failure. No comfortable middle. This presentation is make or break for us. This conversation is make or break for the relationship. High stakes, significant weight, very real. Sink or swim. You are placed in a situation, no guidance, no instructions, no safety net. You either figure it out and survive, or you do not. My first month living alone in a new city was sink or swim. I had to learn how everything worked very quickly and mostly by getting things wrong first. Do or die, the most intense of all the decision pairs. The stakes are absolute. You must do this because the alternative is catastrophic. Everything is on the line. You hear this in sports commentary during the most critical matches. It is a do or die situation for both teams. Every single moment matters. Back and forth. Movement in 2 directions repeatedly. The conversation went back and forth for an hour. We emailed back and forth all week without reaching a decision. The child on the swing moved back and forth in the afternoon light. It suggests repetition, often without resolution, but also sometimes just rhythm, here and there, in various places, or occasionally and without a fixed pattern. I picked up some phrases here and there during my travels. I see that film recommended here and there online. Scattered, casual, not organized but present. Come and go. Trends come and go. People come and go. Feelings come and go. This pair lives in the long view of things. Nothing is permanent. Everything moves through. Difficult seasons come and go, good ones do too. The phrase carries a kind of acceptance, a quiet wisdom about the temporary nature of most things. In and out, very practical. I was in and out of the pharmacy in 10 minutes. She was in and out of meetings all day. Quick, efficient, no lingering. But sometimes the phrase carries heavier meaning. He has been in and out of hospital for the past year, in and out of a difficult situation. In and out can mean repeated visits to somewhere you do not want to be. Stop and go, most commonly used for traffic. The drive took 2 hours because of constant stop and go conditions, but it also describes progress. We had stop and go progress on the project all month. Nothing flowed, nothing built momentum, just interruptions and small advances. Black and white. No gray, no ambiguity, perfectly clear. Either this or that, right or wrong, yes or no. Some people see everything in black and white, and it gives them confidence and speed. But most of real life, I think, lives in the gray. The more interesting conversations happen in the gray. Loud and clear. You heard something and understood it completely. Message received loud and clear. It comes from radio communication originally, but now it is everywhere. I hear you loud and clear. No confusion. No misunderstanding. Everything received exactly as it was sent. Short and sweet. Brief but good. Please keep the speech short and sweet. He left a short and sweet note on my door. Nobody minds when something is short and sweet. It respects your time and still delivers what you need. Bright and early, very early in the morning, ready and awake. We need to leave bright and early tomorrow. She arrived bright and early for her first day. The phrase makes early mornings sound pleasant, like sunshine and possibility, even when the reality is that you are half asleep and the coffee has not worked yet. The phrase is doing the motivational work that your body is refusing to do. Safe and sound. One of the most comforting pairs in English. Arrived without any harm. Home without any trouble. She is safe and sound. They got back safe and sound. It is the phrase that relieves worry. The phrase that says everything is okay. Everything arrived in one piece. Alive and well. Something or someone still exists and is doing fine. Vinyl records are alive and well. Independent bookshops are alive and well in many cities. The tradition is alive and well. There is a slightly defiant energy in this phrase, like it is pushing back against something, like it is saying, yes, we are still here. We did not disappear. Do not count us out. Trial and error. How most things in real life actually get learned. You try, it does not work. You adjust, you try again. Slowly, through the trying and the failing and the adjusting and the trying again, you find what works. Learning a language is trial and error. Cooking is trial and error. Navigating a new city is trial and error. There is no shame in it. Trial and error is simply honest learning. Give and take, the foundation of every healthy relationship. Both people make compromises. Both people offer something and receive something. It moves in both directions. If only one person is always giving and the other is always taking, that is not give and take. That is something else entirely, and it usually does not last. Wear and tear, the natural, quiet damage that accumulates on something through regular use over time, not an accident, not dramatic, just time leaving its marks. Your shoes after a year of daily walking, a car after many kilometers of roads, a favorite bag after years of markets and train stations and everything in between. Normal wear and tear is not failure. It is just life lived with things you actually use. Hit and miss. Inconsistent. Sometimes great, sometimes disappointing. That restaurant is completely hit and miss. Some evenings the food is extraordinary. Other evenings something arrives cold or overcooked, and you wonder if it is the same kitchen. My attempts at making homemade pasta are hit and miss. Sometimes it is beautiful. Sometimes it is the texture of a rubber band. Do's and don'ts. When someone gives you the do's and don'ts, they're telling you what to do and what to avoid. The do's and don'ts of job interviews, the do's of traveling in a new country, the do's of a first date. Practical, organized, often very useful to hear before you walk into something unfamiliar. Hustle and bustle. The busy, noisy, energetic movement of a crowded place. The hustle and bustle of the city during rush hour. The hustle and bustle of a busy market on a Saturday morning. Some people are energized by it. Some people find it completely draining. I think most of us are somewhere in between depending on the day and how much sleep we got. Peace and quiet, what you crave after the hustle and bustle, the stillness, the calm, the absence of noise and demand. All I want after a long week is some peace and quiet. Just an evening with no notifications, no obligations, no conversation required. These two pairs are connected. One creates the need for the other. Law and order. The system of rules in a society and the enforcement of those rules. A stable society depends on law and order. Also, famously, a very long-running television series that seems to have approximately 40 spin-offs and no intention of stopping. Push and pull. A tension between two opposing forces pulling in different directions at the same time. There was a constant push and pull between what she wanted for herself and what her family expected. He felt the push and pull between staying comfortable and taking a risk. It is a dynamic phrase. It describes something that is never still. Cat and mouse, a situation where one person or group is chasing another who keeps escaping or outsmarting them. The detective played cat and mouse with the suspect for months. The negotiators played cat and mouse over the contract for weeks. Strategy, cunning, a chase that has not yet been decided. Rise and fall, possibly the most poetic pair of all 50. The rise and fall of an empire. The rise and fall of a career. The rise, fall of a friendship. Four words that carry an entire arc. The full story of something from its beginning to its ending. There is beauty in it, and there is truth. Rough and ready. Not perfectly polished, not elegant, but functional and practical. The presentation was rough and ready, but it communicated everything we needed. The campsite was rough and ready, but perfectly fine for 3 nights. It is honest work. It gets the job done. Near and dear, or near and dear to my heart. Something or someone that is very close to you, very loved, very important. This podcast is near and dear to me. Every single listener who has ever left a comment or recommended us to a friend is near and dear to us. That is the honest truth. Free and easy, relaxed, informal, without pressure or agenda. It was a free and easy Sunday afternoon. The conversation was free and easy from the very beginning. No tension, no schedule, just comfortable, unhurried flow. Black and blue. This one does not describe two colors in a design sense. It describes bruises. If someone is black and blue, they are covered in bruises from something physically difficult or painful. After the football match, he was completely black and blue. It sounds dramatic, but it is used in very ordinary conversations about physical experience. Bow and arrow, the classic weapon pair from history. Fixed order. Always bow first, always arrow second. Bow and arrow. It appears in stories, in history, in mythology, in cinema. Never arrow and bow. The bow comes first because it is the instrument. The arrow is what it launches. Horse and carriage, another classic pair. An old and elegant image. You cannot have one without the other to make the picture work. And this one appears in everything from fairy tales to wedding traditions. You can't have the fairy tale without the horse and carriage. Hit and run. Most commonly, a traffic situation where a driver hits another vehicle or person and then leaves without stopping. A hit-and-run accident. But it also works figuratively. A hit-and-run comment is when someone says something unkind or provocative and then disappears before any conversation can happen. Hit-and-run energy is not something you want from people in your life. And now, the recap. 50 pairs. In your ears, in your brain, working quietly for feelings and states, sick and tired, ups and downs, heart and soul, alive and well, for food and daily life, salt and pepper, bread and butter, bacon and eggs, fish and chips, for time, now and then, sooner or later, on and off, now or never, bright and early, for decisions and pressure, pros and cons, all or nothing, make or break, sink or swim, do or die, for movement and space, back and forth, here and there, come and go, in and out, stop and go, for description and quality, black and white, loud and clear, short and sweet, safe and sound, Russ and ready, free and easy, for process and learning, trial and error, give and take, wear and tear, hit and miss, do's and don'ts, for society and environment, hustle and bustle, peace and quiet, law and order, rise and fall, for tension and conflict, push and pull, cat and mouse, hit and run, for warmth and closeness, near and dear, for objects and images, bow and arrow, horse and carriage, black and blue. Here is your challenge for this week. Pick 5 pairs from this list, just 5, and use each one in a real sentence this week, in a text message, in a conversation, in your English journal, in the comments below. Write your 5 sentences, and I will read them. I read every comment, every single one, because this is the practice that changes things. Not reading about English, using it, making it yours through actual contact with real situations. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Native Echo Podcast and give us a like. It genuinely helps us reach more learners like you. Share this with a friend who is sick and tired of boring grammar lessons and ready for something that feels more like real life. I will see you in the next episode. Keep listening, keep practicing, and remember, language learning has its ups and downs, but sooner or later, it all clicks into place. Bye, everyone.